Thank you very much, all of you. And please, I call now Professor Alexos Politeros and Associate Professor Irini Nianiou to come here for organize the next session. So I'll give the floor to Professor Politeros and Ms. Nianiou, Associate Professor for our university, to start this session. Ναι. Όχι, συνεχίζουμε.
I will have to welcome you to this session, and let's. Okay, here. We will begin with Lorenzo Raggi with the talk regarding an analysis of landrace cultivation across Europe to promote in situ conservation. And these are results of the Horizon 2020 project Farm Sprite. Mr. Lorenzo Raggi, please.
Yes, good morning to everyone. Just give me the time to share my presentation, but I think I have to be, I don't have the permission still to share the screen. So if you could please, okay, now it's working. Okay, can you properly see the presentation?
Now we see it properly. Yeah.
And can you properly hear me?
Yes, of course.
Okay, thank you. So, first of all, I would like to thank you, the organizing committee, that gave me the opportunity to present some of the results we got in the frame of the Farmers' Pride project. Very briefly, let me remember you that we are currently experiencing really a high rate of diversity loss, and this, of course, is also related to agriculture, where most of the production is based today on genetically uniform varieties that they basically lack diversity. There are pure lines or hybrids in autogamous and allogamous crops. However, and I would say fortunately, still landrace are grown, so they are still present in situ. And this is due to many different reasons, but the most important are probably related to their elasticity, so the fact that they can produce well, so good performance, and I would say also good stability under low input condition, and also they can adapt, they divert to the changing environment. In some cases, the use of landraces is also related to the high value of their product. So we are quite convinced that in the near future, a more wide and rational use of agrobiodiversity will be very important to counteract diversity loss in general and to cope well with the changing environment. Thank you to the buffering effect that diversity can give to these materials. However, we have a big problem that landraces, and particularly tracking landraces in situ, is quite complex and difficult because there are different models in different countries. And I would also underline that the number of sites that are potentially involved is dramatically high, and the system is quite dynamic. So from here to here, it can change quite a lot, the number and the places where landraces are cultivated. We don't know very well where they are, why they are still cultivated, in which manner. And basically, we lack inventories for many countries and, of course, for Europe. We are also not completely aware on the methods we could use to increase the value and so to promote the use of landraces in our region. So all these aspects together basically limits our ability to setting up coordinated action for conservation and use of landraces in Europe. So it's in this context that the Farmers' Pride project started with the specific aim of creating a European network for promoting in situ conservation and sustainable use of plant genetic resources, including both land races and crop varieties. So at the beginning of our work that was mainly related to land races, we started with a survey to study the stakeholder community, because we already knew that it's a quite complex community. And so we wanted to understand the characteristic of this stakeholder and the willingness to join such a network. So we were able, with ad hoc developed survey, to reach more than 1,000 different stakeholders of in situ conservation of land races, and almost 70% of these stakeholders were interested in joining a future network. Over our website of the project, you can find also this very nice map where we are presenting all the expression of interest that we are still collecting for joining a future network. And so you can find some details on the stakeholders that are giving their, I will say, they are saying that they are interested in joining the network. After this first point, we started, so since it's very difficult to promote in situ conservation and wider use of land races without knowing actually where they are cultivated, we started to build a first European inventory of land races in situ. That is quite challenging activities, but we tried to do our best. So we started from the preparation of a template that was distributed to all our partners and the ECPGR to collect as much as possible data on land races that are grown in situ. So after several quality control, we used this data for GIS analysis, and we ended with more than 19,000 records of cultivation of land races in Europe. And these were provided from more than 10 institutions, in particular 17 institutions from 14 different European countries. You can see here graphical representation of the distribution of land race cultivation sites according to our data. And you can see quite strong differences in the number of land races cultivation sites, very high number, for example, from Italy, Greece, Portugal, and Austria. As for the species, Triticum spelta, we were quite surprised about this, was the species with the highest number of sites, but basically they were almost all concentrated in Austria. So when we did some different analysis, so trying to find out which are the crops that are of most interest regarding land race cultivation in different countries, we found out that the common bean, malus, onion, potato, and tomato were the species of most interest for land races cultivation across Europe. Then we switched our attention to protected area because we thought that was interesting to relate the places where land races are cultivated with the places where, in theory, we should find also high concentration of crop wild relatives. And we found out using that 19,000 in situ conservation land races in situ records that almost 20% of these sites of cultivation are actually within protected area of the Natura 2000 network. And in this record, almost 73% of the different species we identified are present. Situations are quite different in the different countries. We don't have time to go through all the data, but we can just say that in some cases, the percentage of land area in protected areas, as well as the percentage of land race cultivation sites and of species covered can be quite low, like for example for Denmark, but it can be also quite high for Greece and for Italy. All these data are available in some paper I will tell you later on. We then moved our attention to the possibility of identifying places where our attention should be put because they are extremely rich of diversity, of land race diversity. So basically we started with the identification of 100 hotspots of land race diversity across Europe, taking into consideration both the number of species present on a square of 25 kilometer sites, together with the number of cultivation sites, as you can see from the legend of this map. So the highest number of these sites are actually in Greece, followed by Portugal and Italy and Austria. So basically the Mediterranean area, as you can see from this map that is highlighted with this light orange color, is, according to our analysis, the richest biogeographical region in Europe according to landraces diversity. Also, in the other countries that are part of our project, we try to identify the areas that are richest in landrace diversity. A few seconds ago, I had to add this slide that was not intended to be present today because it's related to another analysis we carried out in the same study that is related to the presence of conservation varieties in situ. So as for agricultural species, according to our data, so according to the data set of 19,000 in situ records, we found out that a bit more than 15% of the total conservation varieties present in the catalog are present in situ. That is not a low percentage, but in a quite limited number of sites, so 351 sites. Like for vegetable species, the percentage is a bit higher, so almost 20% of the different conservation varieties are present in situ, but again, the number of sites is quite limited. We then move to the second big part of the work we carried out in the process. So trying to understand which are the factors that can be used to increase the value and the accessibility. That is another extremely important point. So to get access to this material is important if you want to promote their use in cultivation for the direct production or also in the breeding. So which are the factors that can increase the added value and accessibility to landrace? In this case, we proceed in a similar manner, but we collected some case studies of successfully example of cultivation of landraces across Europe. But in this case, we had more detailed description of the cultivation process and of the type of material that were cultivated. Because from this description, we tried to create some quantitative descriptor related to the added value and the accessibility, because we had to perform statistical analysis to find out if some of these factors can significantly increase the value or accessibility of landraces. So in this case, we ended with almost 100, the description of almost 100 different case studies from different countries that basically cover all the main biogeographical regions in Europe. So we think that they're quite representative of the situation we have. So regarding the basic features of landrace cultivation, according to this new data set, what is cultivated is basically true landraces that are almost 75% of all the material, followed by introduced landraces. And the main actors involved in this process are still farmers, both alone or organized in consortia. Interesting, most of the entries, but we were quite expecting this, are cultivated under low input or organic condition, as we said, because of rusticity of landraces and also in marginal areas. The statistical analysis allowed us to identify some factors that can increase the added value of landrace product, and in particular, this value can be increased when the resource or the landrace is multiplied by farmer consortia or seed companies or public body, when the landrace is product to be put on the market, and where some kind of product promotion is performed over the landrace. While regarding accessibility, we found out that promotion can also increase the value of landrace products. So what we can conclude from the analysis we carried out in the frame of farmer supply, that fortunately still landraces are grown in the different countries we studied. And this is done by a complex community of stakeholders that include both private and public bodies. Numbers are extremely different from a country to another one. And we are convinced that these are true differences, because we were expecting, for example, high number for countries that are known to hold still a lot of diversity regarding landraces, like Greece or Italy. But we are also convinced that it's a quite different level of knowledge on land-based cultivation, so we have to improve this knowledge. And it's very relevant, as from our data, the necessity to create detailed national inventory of in situ land races. We also found out that it was quite interesting for us that it's quite common that land races are present in protected areas, and this is relevant because in protected areas also crop wild relatives are present, and this kind of information can be really crucial if you want to conserve both types of plant genetic resources. The value of land races can be increased when they are managed by organizations, so like farmer in consortia or like public bodies, so we should try to increase this. Promotion is also extremely important because it can positively affect both the added value and the access to this material. As for the future perspective, we think that we should rely on these factors that we identified that are able to increase the value and accessibility to the land races to improve the adoption at local as well as national international level. And we should also try to promote the adoption of land races because they can play a big role in improving the diversity. So according to what is provided by the Farmer Fort and the Green Deal new policies. So to conclude, we think that it's worth to create an European network for in situ conservation that can protect both land races and crop wild relatives. We think we create a quite important backbone of knowledge for this network. So we know where land races are, we know where hotspots are, and we know where land races are cultivated in protected area that is, as we said, relevant because of the co-occurrence of crop wild relatives that are also extremely important for conserving diversity in situ. Just to cite, there are some available resources, some manuscripts prepared in the frame of the program, of the project, where you can find also some additional analysis on the type of species that are cultivated, in particular with regard to conservation varieties. And I also I would advise you to visit this nice database that is available on the ECPGR website, where you can find all the 95 land races that were analyzed for studying their added value and accessibility to the resource. So these are all the partners of the project. So all person I would like to thank you, and of course you for your very kind attention. Thank you.
We also thank you, Dr. Raggi, and we move on to the next talk by Gordana Duric on Balkan Network for Conservation and Sustainable Use of Plant Genetic Resources. Dr. Duric.
Πρόβλημα με τον ήχο, η κυρία Διορίς, και θα συνεχίσουμε τον Χάινε πρώτα.
It seems that there is a problem with the connection of Dr. Duric, so we will continue with Dr. Jaime Projens. The talk has titled Enhancement of Tomato Land Races in Spain. Dr. Projens, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You hear me? Yeah. So
we hear very well.
So I will share my screen. Let's see. So you can see my presentation.
Yes, it's
yeah.
okay.
Okay, so thank you very much. I'm very happy to participate in this meeting. Thanks to the organizers for inviting me. And well, it's a pity that it has to be online, but these days I'm organizing a tomato congress here in Valencia, so I took some time to be here with you. Well, my talk is on enhancement of tomato land races from Spain. As you know, the local tomato varieties are having an increased demand as they are associated to different characteristics like the flavor of the past, exclusivity, authenticity, local production, sustainable agriculture, and traditional farmers. And sometimes, as you can see in the slide, the local varieties can get much higher prices than the standard tomato. And this is an opportunity for the local farmers to recover the land races so that they can have a sustainable production and also good incomes for the farmers, so they can make a living from the cultivation of the local varieties. However, the local varieties are, with very few exceptions, outside of the conventional seed market, because the market share of these local varieties of tomato is very low, and mostly there is a local demand. So here we have some examples of local varieties of tomato from Spain, the Valenciano from our region, the hanging tomato. You also have this type of varieties in Greece, the Montserrat, which is hollow inside, and others like Roteño in the south. Then you have other varieties from other countries like Capera Abruzzese in Italy, or this one, which you probably know, the Tomataki Santorinis, which is a land race from Greece. So, for example, in our catalog of commercial varieties in Spain, there are 748 commercial varieties, of which only 7.6% are local or traditional varieties. So most of the commercial varieties are modern ones. Here we have some examples of some of the selections of local varieties that are available for farmers, but in general, there are very few of them. A few local tomato varieties have been recognized in Europe with a protected denomination of origin or protected geographical indication. One of them is the Tomataki Santorinis, but also we have Tomate La Cañada from Spain. Also, there is another tomato variety from Germany. But there are few of them protected with this type of recognition. But it is true that the recognition of the local varieties with a protected status or quality mark increases their value because they are perceived as authentic and they are guaranteed to have certain standards of quality and that they are produced with the local land races. So one of the ways of enhancing the tomato varieties, the tomato land races, is by having, let's say, a quality mark, which differentiates this land race from copies. Because sometimes when a land race gets high prices, then copies appear, which are not the land race, but modern varieties that imitate the shape, the color, and some of the external characteristics. Well, the enhancement of local varieties requires knowledge on their characteristics, phenotypic, genetic, and very often selection and breeding. So in this aspect, in the tomato varieties in Spain, we have followed several alternatives for enhancing the local varieties. One of them is using breeding techniques For example, in tomato, it is known that the hybrids normally have heterosis for vigor and for yield. And also in the hybrids, sometimes you get the characteristics of the two parents. So we have crossed, we made a parallel among preselected land races of similar types, so that to see if the hybrids between land races had better characteristics. So in the end, we selected 6 hybrids between land races, which have the flavor and taste characteristics of the land races, and which have higher yield, and the farmers are happy with these hybrids because they give more fruits and they are of high quality. Also, one characteristic type of Spain is called de penjar, or hanging tomato, that it can be grown in the open field during the summer without any water, and you can store it for up to 9 months by hanging them in a dry and ventilated environment. These tomatoes are very interesting because they are very resilient and very promising for breeding, for adaptation to climate change, and for nutrient and water use efficiency. So again, we made a parallel with 3 accessions of this type, and we obtained the 3 hybrids. And what we observed was that a very interesting heterosis for yield, so that the hybrids produced between 25 and 30% more than the parents. And of course, being crosses between accessions of this type, then the hybrid is also of this same type. Also, we have started a program of complementary hybrids between 8 accessions of interest from Spain and Italy. You can see them, the pictures in the slide, 4 Spanish varieties, 4 Italian ones, and we have crossed them with 10 parents, which are donors of traits that may be of interest for these varieties, like mutants for tolerance to heat and drought, several lines with genes of resistance, and other varieties which are interesting for their color or also their organoleptic properties. Another thing that we have done is introgress genes of resistance to diseases into local varieties. For example, one of the biggest problems of the local varieties of tomato is they are susceptible to tomato mosaic virus, and the growers cannot grow it because most of the times they lose the harvest. So what we have done is to introgress the TM2 gene that confers resistance to tomato mosaic virus from a modern variety into the Valencian tomato type. We have made 4 back crosses with selection and then self-fed, and in the end what we obtained are plants of the Valencian type with, which are morphologically indistinguishable from the local variety that have resistance to tomato mosaic virus. The farmers cannot distinguish it by shape, taste, or productivity from their local variety, but the difference is that they have resistance to tomato mosaic virus. Also, we applied the same strategy in this highly resilient de penjar tomato, in which, starting from a similar variety, Manacor F1, an F1 commercial hybrid, we introgressed the gene of resistance into this land race. So now we have the penjar land races with tomato mosaic virus resistance. But thanks to the Bresov project, we started also several other programs of introgressing resistance to diseases. One of them is in 4 varieties introducing resistance to tomato mosaic virus and to Fusarium oxysporum. So we have made the crossings, the selection with markers in BC1, BC2, BC3, and now we are in the BC4, and we have very interesting plants which are resistant, and they already have the phenotype of the local variety. And also, we have initiated another very ambitious program in which in 4 varieties, which are the same that we used before, we are introducing not only tomato mosaic virus and Fusarium resistance, resistance, but also tomato spotted wilt virus, verticillium, and tomato yellow leaf curl virus. We used 2 donors for these resistances, and we follow a crossing scheme in which we follow 2 parallel programs, because sometimes when you add the resistance to tomato yellow leaf curl virus, there is an effect of reduction of yield. So in the end, we are obtaining multiple lines with different combinations of genes to see which ones have good yield and good quality and the maximum number possible of resistances. And well, another important thing in enhancing the local varieties of tomato is not just technical issues like the ones we have seen, which are selection, even breeding, and let's say developing hybrids and so on. But the most important thing in my point of view is the need of associating. In our case, we have promoted the creation of an association of farmers of the Valencian tomato type, and in collaboration with our university. So in 2017, we organized the first Congress of the Valencian tomato, in which you can see the participants, many farmers, some scientists. And in 2020, just before the pandemics, the Association of Farmers and Marketers of the Valencian tomato was constituted. It's mostly farmers. They produce more than 1 million kilos of tomatoes per year, which are sold at, the farmers receive between 1.5 and 2 euros per kilo, so it's quite a significant amount of money. And last week we had a presentation of the association, including the new logo with which the fruits are labeled, and we had the presence of the Director General of Agriculture, and the association is growing and farmers are happy about this and are contributing to recover this almost lost local variety. In conclusion, from my side, the tomato land races are very diverse and have a huge potential for enhancement. By exploiting the hybrid vigor and complementarity between local tomato land races, it is possible to achieve materials with better performance. Introduction of resistance to some diseases is essential to ensure production by farmers, and enhancement of local tomato varieties is highly benefited from the association and cooperation between farmers. So that's my presentation. This is all from my side, and thanks for your attention. I have to thank the Brezov project, which sponsored most of this work, and also to other minor projects from our regional government. So thank you very much. Stop sharing.
We also thank Dr. Prohens for his contribution, his presentation.
Okay.
Professor Mavromatis,
I would like to thank you very much, Jaime, for your participation. And given that you have the responsibility of the Eucarpia conference in Valencia for tomato, I sincerely wish you good luck and success in your work.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Okay, and now we move on with the last talk of this session, which is by Gordana Duric, Balkan Network.
You hear me now? Sorry.
Yes, we hear and we see you.
Okay, thank you.
Balkan
I will share my
Network
presentation.
for Conservation and Sustainable Use of Plant Genetic Resources. Dr. Duric, you hear?
Just a minute. You should enable me with sharing.
Please, you can
I
find
do not have permission for sharing.
The green one. It's difficult. Okay, if it's possible for us, please come a person here to see the presentation through our computer. So okay. It's okay. It's okay for you. Please open your presentations and we are ready to present.
Could you see now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. always troubles with computer and online meeting. I am very grateful because I am today with you as a representative of newborn network, Balkan Seed Network, which is officially established before a few days in Bucharest in Romania. I also want to say thanks to my colleague Kostas, who really participated from the beginning and gave personal efforts to organizing this network and finishing with official memorandum. In fact, Balkan Seed Network consists now of 16 organizations and institutions dealing with Balkan, with location of organization in the Balkan or working in the Balkan. And by signing of Memorandum of Understanding, we in fact establish officially this Balkan Seed Network. The main aim is to work on food system and collaboration within the rich biodiversity and agricultural heritage of our countries. Our networks are organization and there are seed savers, mostly breeders, scientists, farmers, but also research institutes and educational institutions. And we believe really in working together and support local communities, especially women and young people, and protect our traditional farming and culinary tradition. We also put in our mission as one of the important goals, community-based science, and using and conservation of plant genetic resources which are well adapted to low input and sustainable agriculture, especially organic farming and agroecology, because we all are really aware about challenges in current time with climate changes, but also some other challenges. Until now, we have 16 organizations from 11 countries, but our network is open, and you can see here all organizations signed the memorandum. In fact, all Balkan countries, including EU and non-EU countries. And the main planned activities should be, in fact, exchange information and material, how, if possible, I mean on seeds, exchanging of seeds. We will see how and when and where. Then cooperation on research programs which are relevant to the scope of the network, mainly common trial, identification, characterization of plant genetic resources, then material who is on the level of evolution and under climate change's impacts, both on the national and international level. Then we also constitute different working groups, one especially for training, mentoring, and changing of experience. And also we want to strengthen the linkage between ex situ, in situ, and on-farm conservation of genetic resources. Also, our main goal and activities will be on participatory and organic breeding and selection for adaptation to low input and organic conditions, and GMO and new genomic technologies in breeding are out of the scope of our network and won't be promoted. Then we want to work on promotion of organic agriculture, agroecology, and sustainable use in any way of genetic resources. looking for funding, collaborative research program or donations, and especially lobbying for farmer seeds and farmers' rights at national and regional level. Our network is governing by Network General Assembly, which is consisted of a representative of each party participating in the network, and is managed by board composed of 5 members. I serve now as a first elected board chair, and we have colleagues from Greece, our colleague Kostas, Ivana from Serbia, and Lavdor from Albania, and we still are waiting for one member more. The network also has a secretary, which is appointed by the board, and now the duties of the secretary are performed by Egilops and Kostas, and also we established different working group which have advisory roles. Why we decided to establish this Balkan Seed Network? We all know that Balkan countries are rich in agrobiodiversity. We still practice a broad range of divergent crop system based on divergent local and autochthonous plant varieties, which are not on national but also of international region and international importance. And still there are really strong links between this agrobiodiversity, traditional knowledge, cultural diversity, and practices which are still alive in the whole region. But in contrast to developed countries, especially European Union, often less rich in agrobiodiversity, but equipped very strongly with policy and supporting preservation, sustainable use and promotion of genetic resources. We are aware that we as a region has to establish a good framework for conservation and sustainable use of plant genetic resources. Some photos of really high plant genetic resources diversity in our region, and these photos are taken for a few hours studies made by different colleagues from Macedonia, Albania, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Kosovo, Montenegro, and Serbia. And in fact, we started with our collaboration during the COVID before 2 years. During last years, we created and discussed a memorandum of understanding, and on our last meeting in Bucharest on 26th of May, we officially signed, sorry, this is a mistake, not 6 and 16 parties. In that time, during that meeting, we also agreed 2 small project application and media release, which will be published very soon. And the network is really open, and all interested organizations from the region and working in the region are welcome. Our first project application would be about a survey of seed legislation in all countries, conducting also survey on law on organic production to see is the new directive implemented or not. As we saw last week, no one country from the region is not implemented new regulation on organic production. And we are looking for fund sources and also for new partners. I am sure that this is really short preservation Balkan Seed Network, and I see it as a real Balkan seed savers. Thank you for your invitation and your attention. Just to stop share. And I want to add at the end that looking on the previous presentation, I'm sure that if this region participate, or countries from the Balkan region, but non-EU countries participate in similar activities, the hotspots of land races will be more spread and would be more hotspots in our countries. So I after many years of work in ECPGR, I can say that really this region is not so, I cannot say welcome, it is welcome, but we not participate so high in project financing from Horizon. I know there are now two projects, Horizon 2020 from last budget period, but no one countries, non-EU countries participate in the project. So we hope that in future this network will help us, because all of us, especially non-EU countries, are weak to prepare or to give some support for the project. But as a network, I am sure that we will give a great contribution to preservation of plant genetic resources for the future generation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Duric, and we wish you every success in your efforts to build this network. And now we will move on with questions and answers.
We are thanks Dr. Duric, Ragi, and Prohens for interesting presentation. We are thanks Dr. Duric, Ragi, and Prohens for very interesting presentation about the cultivation, conservation of land races cultivation in Europe and Balkanian region. We are continue with questions. If you have any questions or comments, please. Professor Mavromatis, have some questions, please?
Yes, I transfer two questions to all of you. The one is because Dr. Ragi and also Jaime Prohens give some special solutions or advanced or what may happen in the future for having a more succeed exploitation of these genetic resources, because Professor Prohens, you have an example of success in your area in Valencia. Please transfer your experience, and afterwards Professor Ragi and also Jordana, please propose us which is the solution for exploited with a better way all this network for having more effectively, I don't know, approach and using plant genetic resources from the Mediterranean zone or from Europe.
Yeah, if I may start, in our case, what we have observed is that increasingly, at least in the developed countries, many people are asking for local produce, and there is an interest in the society in recovering the traditional varieties, because they are associated not only to the taste or nutritional quality, but also to the culture. So, for example, here in Valencia, we observed that there was an increasing demand, and even big supermarkets like Carrefour and others also marketed Valencian tomato. But the farmers had some problems because the farmers need to produce. If you put a crop and the crop gets diseased and you cannot sell the product because you got a virus, and then it's a big problem for the farmer. And many farmers did not want or do not want to grow these varieties because they have fears of diseases. So in our case, in tomato, the main disease, the most problematic one is the tomato mosaic virus, which was solved 60 or 70 years ago with the tomato mosaic virus resistance. And we simply made a backcross program to introduce the resistance to tomato mosaic virus into this variety. And the farmers, the variety we obtained, the farmers agree with, they tasted it, they compared with the original variety, and they said it's the same. So we know, and we made analysis of quality and also molecular markers to see that the background is maintained and so on. So we have a Valencian variety that now they are very happy producing it because they get much more money, and the organoleptic and characteristics are not changed. One of the biggest problems that we have is that many times in Mediterranean countries, the farmers do not have the tradition of associating. They are more individualistic and they do not like much to have association. But in this case, from the university, we made a lot of work to convince them, and now they are very happy about this. They got a trademark for their tomatoes, for the people in the association. More farmers are coming. Different types of tomatoes are cultivated, not only one of the Valencian type. And so we think that we have contributed to diversify, to maintain in situ the varieties and to maintain the diversity, to get young people interested in horticulture and agriculture, and to satisfy the demand of the market. So I think it's a good example of how the land races can contribute to the sustainability of horticulture, not only from the environmental point of view, but also from the economic point of view. If it's not economically sustainable, it's very difficult to recover the land races for cultivation.
If I may add, I think I completely agree with
we have some problem, Jaime, with... please repeat it. Open and close your microphone, please.
It should work. I mean, can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you, Lorenzo.
Okay, good. I just want to add that I completely agree with what Jaime said. It's very important to bring farmers together. I mean, we did find statistical support to the fact that when farmers are together working in consortia, the value of the product they produce increases. So it's very important. And from our point of view, we also think that one way to increase the adoption of land races is to increase the access to the seed, because farmer needs the seed for the production. So we have to increase the knowledge of these land races, of their specific characteristics, and increase the access to the seed. That can be quite difficult in many cases. And according to our data, probably the organic and low input systems are those that could benefit more from land races. But again, it's very interesting what Jaime presented. So through breeding, we should try to make land races more profitable, especially regarding the viruses or fungi. I mean, if they have some big defects, we should try to make them more, I would say not more productive, but with a high value product that should be without damages from pathogens. So good, really good work, Jaime. Thank you.
Lorenzo, thank you very much and for your proposals. And Giordana, please, because it's critical to connect growers with the market, because may you follow a network, may you organize a network. How you can imagine that may we organize in a better way all this new network who has growers and also the market, influence consumers' preferables and so on?
Yes, thank you. This is really important issue and good question. Thank you for question and introducing words of my colleagues. In fact, without farmers and without producers very close to the consumers, it won't be possible to promote and to spread local races, because we need consumers to be familiar with that local agrobiodiversity, and they have to ask for that product, because if we want to keep them, we have to produce them. In fact, that is sustainable use. And our network, but now our region is special. Although we have 4 EU countries and other are non-EU countries, but the region is very similar. It's a very small size farmhouses, and we all are dealing with very, very, very fast depopulation of the rural area. I am afraid because of that, when I compare with time when we started with collecting of our plant genetic resources, 2002, 2004, 2005, and go back before 2-3 years to see some fruit trees in situ, how many farms are empty and how many people went from the rural regions. So that, in fact, many local land races and local population are really endangered if we don't make some innovation. I cannot say how, but we really need innovation in approach to interested to people to maintain, to multiply, to produce, and to use and to eat these resources. Other question for me, I am also wondering. This is Professor Krohens showed really excellent work with hybridization and making new resistant. But my question is, for example, and farmers also always ask, will be this cultivar or hybrid protected, registered? Who will be the owner of that license? Who will seed? Who will market the seed? So we are always in fight, because this job is so expensive, and as a scientist and people with experience, I know that we need so many efforts and funds and money to have that. But on the other side, if you taken something from the nature, how we will deal? That is also a question for me. I don't have answer, but that is maybe question also so for the network, for region, for all of you, how we will deal with that catching of gene from land races, putting in new cultivar hybrid, which will be registered and multiply with seed company, again, multinational.
Yeah, if I can say something here, in our case, the new varieties and the hybrids that are obtained belong to the association. So in this case, the system has worked in the following way. The Association of Farmers asked to the regional government for financing for promoting of local products, because there is a research, a funding line for promotion of local products. So we made the technical work, but the varieties will belong to the Association of Farmers. But one of the main ways to create the association is that one of the things that they are more worried is that they will have their varieties stolen by seed companies or by others, that they take the variety and they cultivate it in another place and they sell it with their name. So we created the association, a quality mark, but also the materials that are obtained belong to the association, which is one way for the farmers to be protected. And because, the breeding companies are not very interested in this small markets. Production of 1 million kilos is nothing for a breeding company. The quantity of seed they can sell maybe is 1 kilo or something like that of seed. It's nothing for a breeding company. Many times they are not interested in these varieties. Only in varieties that can be grown in many places that they can sell at very high prices. And so let's say that we are not competing with breeding companies because many times they are not interested in these varieties.
Thank you. Solution. Really. I hope it will be possibility for sharing of your experience and participating in some our activities. So our network is really open, and you all are really welcome.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I thank all speakers of these sections and also the participants, and we'll come to the small coffee break. For about 50 minutes, yeah. And we continue with the other sections. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you very much to all of you.
Have a nice Congress.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Congress also, Jaime.
Thank you.